positive reaction. When the world is gone astray, you know you got to say positive reaction. When the world has got you down, it'll turn your life around. Positive reaction for a brighter day. All you got to say, positive reaction. Positive reaction, positive reaction, positive reaction, get the point. Positive reaction, positive reaction, positive reaction, positive reaction, positive reaction, get the point. Positive reaction, positive reaction, positive reaction, positive reaction, positive reaction.
We're here with prolific urban folk poet and educator Wardell Montgomery.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I want to ask you, what inspired your poetry?
I was inspired to write poetry at a very early age by my mother, who was a poet, Rose Montgomery, who wrote under the name of Rose Dew. And she would read and recite poetry to my brothers and myself. And I can remember that just as a young kid. And I was just fascinated by the fact that she would just tell us these stories and recite this poetry to us. Mm-hmm.
And you did some songwriting too. Do you want to go into how you came about doing that?
Yeah. The songwriting became from writing poetry. You know, like I said, I wrote poetry, and then I was interested in the songs of the day, the rock and roll era. All of those kinds of things caught my attention, and I just sort of loved the music and the songs by different artists, be it Chuck Berry, be it Elvis or Brenda Lee, be it jazz songs. And I found myself trying my hand at writing lyrics. I was just sort of fascinated by that whole experience.
Okay, and who did you write for?
Okay, now, I was a freelance writer, and this was during the 60s. One company was called TCB. I wrote song lyrics for them. I was a freelance writer for Motown, although they didn't record anything that I wrote, but I did write some things for them and had the opportunity to meet a lot of the singers and entertainers there and songwriters there to collaborate with, such as a writer named John Glover. So we collaborated on a number of things with Motown, but we traveled around the city and outside of the city and connected with a lot of people. Later, with the Barrino brothers, who I met early on at a company called TCB, they recorded a song that I wrote called "It Doesn't Have to Be That Way." Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just curious. Do you ever cross paths with the Jackson 5 or anything?
You know, during that time, I did meet them. I met a lot of people, and this was the time. This was in the late '60s when the Jackson 5 were really coming on the scene. So I didn't have a chance to really like sit down and have a lot of interaction with them, but they were at the studio during this time. So I had a chance to become familiar with them and just saw how they really took off back at that time.
That's interesting. And you also moved to Denver. Go into what you accomplished there.
Okay, I moved to Denver in the 80s. I was there from about 84 to 96. And there, I think my big accomplishment there was that I had a chance to connect with community television and to work with poets, singers, musicians, community activists. So that was quite an experience. Also, I was in a performing arts troupe, and we would travel around the city, and we would do poetry, music, singing, and dancing. We did a combination of things, kind of a variety of entertainment. And that way we could entertain people with some popular songs and some original songs and poetry. And then at the same time, we had message in our work where we dealt with social issues. So it was a way of being entertaining and at the same time being socially aware. So that was quite an experience. The group we called ourselves was Poetic Justice. And then and that was also the name of our TV show. And it came out actually before Janet Jackson's movie, Poetic Justice, you know. But it was during that time, and it was a real exciting time to connect with the arts. And Denver is a very culturally diverse city. and we had a chance to really interact with black people, white people, brown people, with the native people. It was an excellent opportunity to interact with a wide range of people in Denver.
And you built up a lot of popularity in the local scene, right?
Yes, our TV show became quite popular as a local community show, and those who were on the show, people recognized them as they went out about their business around the city. And the show aired on a regular basis. We had a regular time slot that would run like a couple times a week, and then they would also repeat it at different times, day and night. So we really got a lot of airplay with that show.
And you published a lot of books. Tell me, what was your favorite work?
Okay, I guess the favorite work would probably be my last one, called Do I Have to Live Like This? And that's because it comprised of pieces that I've written over the last 50 years. So it's some of the pieces that a lot of people who have read my work and heard my work, pieces that they've commented on favorably that they like. And there were some of my personal favorites. And also it gives kind of a real retrospective of what I'm writing about. And a person can get from this collection a pretty good feel for who I am as a poet.
And you also produced a film. Give me the title and a description of your film.
Okay, that's A Poet's Point of View with Henry Wolf. And we collaborated on that. And that was a real exciting process of putting that together, of taking some of these poems that I've written, incorporating some songs in it, and some photography of a friend of mine, Dale Rich, who's an accomplished photographer whose work has been at Wayne State and Plowshares and various places. So it was sort of combining the poetry that I've written, photography of Dale Rich, music of Douglas Jackson, and then the work of Henry Wolf is kind of pulling all of this together. And it was a chance to kind of put a poetry experience to the public. And it was very well received. It was on Comcast. They ran it a number of times on Comcast. And I've had a chance to share it as I do poetry in various workshops with young people, with seniors, and the recovering community. So it's been a great experience to share that video with a number of people.
And currently you're at Nichols Elementary School. Tell me the kind of work you're doing there with the children.
Okay, at Nichols Elementary and Middle School, but I'm working with third graders there. And basically what I do is helping them with their reading, helping them to improve their reading skills, their reading comprehension, and helping them to actually appreciate reading and writing. And I have the opportunity to share poetry with them, poetry that I've written and poetry that's part of the literature. And they have some books there that deals with poetry and deals with questions that help the young people deal with life. It's a book called Inside of Me. And I've been using that book as well as some poems that I've written and some other poems out of literature, and to help them to have an appreciation of literature, also to help them to improve their reading and their comprehension, to understand more about literature, and also to understand a bit about life, some of the challenges that they're facing at their young age, and the problems that they have to deal with in family, just in terms of what the city is going through in terms of public education. So it's a chance to have some interaction with them and hopefully make some kind of impact with them.
Okay, so tell me about your new CD and what the essence of the project is about.
Okay, the new CD is called Do I Have to Live Like This? And again, it's a collection of poetry that I've written over the years. And so some of the favorite pieces that people like and people have requested on the CD. I had the occasion to work with Keith Gamble, an excellent saxophonist. And I met Keith a few years ago when I was a featured reader, and he asked that he would like to collaborate with me. And we've had that collaboration for the last few years, and he's written some beautiful compositions to the poetry. So we have the poetry with this musical accompaniment. And we've had a chance to do that a few times, more recently at the public library, the main library, at their Jazz and Java series, where they feature a poet and musicians on a regular basis, you know. Yeah, so that's been a real good experience.
Can we have a recitation of some of your work?
Yeah, I'll do the title piece from the CD and from the book. Do I have to live like this? Today, times are hard. Good jobs are few. Even computers are looking for work to do. When liquor and drugs for many are a way of life, it's no small wonder we're losing folk via gun and knife. Pushes at parties on the street. Liquor stores on too many corners. If I depend on them to exist, I ask my wretched self, do I have to live like this? Do they supply junk because I demand? Or do I demand junk because they supply? Are these scapegoats for our pleasure or only to bring us heartaches and pain? Remaining sober, I could see through this silly game. Am I caught in a thunderstorm thinking it's only a light rained-up mist? I ask my wretched self, do I have to live like this? In rugged bygone years, my people, poor and proud, have had so little, yet have done so much. By comparison, I have had so much, yet have done so little. I tried to keep up with the Joneses and ended up with a Jones I couldn't keep up with. If Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Crispus Attucks, Denmark Vesey, Nat Turner, Frederick Douglass, and others too numerous to list could rise above slavery and oppression, teaching their people of the evils they had to resist, then I ask my wretched self, do I have to live like this? Did I let Hollywood and Madison Avenue turn my American dream to a nightmare while I lay stretched out on the sidewalk with children dancing around me singing? Is he sick? Is he asleep? Is he drunk? Is he drugged? Is he dead? What a shame. Let's call the police to take him away so we could play another game. When I think of the many strong Afro-Americans who were their own analysts, I ask my wretched self, do I have to live like this?
5 p.m. reaction.
So who were the last poets and what was your involvement with them?
Okay, the last poets were a group of poets in the 60s that represented a major time of what was happening with art and culture and politics in the late 60s. They represented the anger and the frustration of black people, of how black people were being treated and trivialized, you know. And this kind of came in the wake of civil disturbances and riots and all of that sort of thing that was happening. And it was kind of a voice for the anger and the frustration. And they were a major part of the black arts movement, where a lot of artists, black artists, were really speaking out about the conditions that black people were faced. And the last poets kind of epitomized that. And they didn't hold back. You know, the language was very provocative or very profane and profound, you know. And it created a lot of controversy. Some people really loved them for speaking out and taking on the issues that black people were faced with. And other people were kind of embarrassed by it and didn't really want to deal with it, or maybe in denial of what a lot of the problems were. So during that time, I became more active myself as a poet, where not as profane as the last poets, hopefully still profound, you know. But it gave me a chance to kind of look at things and how I wanted to express myself, you know. I think that they set a bar, and you can go really deep and get down to real nitty-gritty, or you can do it in a little more sophisticated way. But nonetheless, it was an avenue for poets to express themselves. And during that time was a place called Rapper House, Rogers Academy for Performing Arts. And it was a place where artists could come together. Musicians would come. And it was known for after-hour jazz. Musicians would come there and jam there to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning after they would leave the clubs. And it was a place where poets were welcome there. They had burlesque. They did a variety of kinds of things that was maybe somewhat shocking, but at the same time, Miss Rogers had taste. She could take on things that would be provocative and controversial and kind of knew where to draw the line, you know. And that was the place where I became more involved in poetry, and she asked me to host a poetry event there. So I had a chance to do that, and had a chance to interact with a lot of the poets who were frustrated. But we didn't just deal with anger poetry, we dealt with the beauty of poetry, with nature and language and relationships. And during this time, the Last Poets were very much on the scene. And the founder of the Last Poet is from Detroit. He was in New York when he founded them. But he had a definite connection with Detroit and a connection with me. He's also my cousin, you know. So during all this was going on, that the Last were making their impact, you know, this was a relative of mine and got mixed blessings from the family as well, you know. But he made a major impact and was, you know, very sincere. And then at the same time, I was involved as a songwriter, working with the Barrino brothers, wrote the song with Howlin' Doja Howlin', Invictus Records, which was the second largest record company to Motown, I believe. I had a chance to write this song, It Doesn't Have to Be That Way, with the Barrino brothers. So for me, it was an excellent opportunity to be connected with what was going on in terms of the plight of black people, to be connected with the black arts movement, to be connected with a lot of things that was happening, and then to find my own voice. My own voice wasn't as, maybe it wasn't as loud, and it wasn't as profane, but it allowed me a chance to find out where I fit in, and like it was a place for me to be a part of all this scene and to find my own voice there. And that's what was important, and Rapper House allowed us to do that. It allowed people who wanted to express their anger and frustration and use all the profanity and all that. They could do that. People could be very subdued and do beautiful poetry, could write about relationships, and it was open to people of all different races. At the time of the 60s, when it was very turbulent times for Detroit, at the Rapper House, we had white folks in the city of Detroit, white folks from the suburbs coming to Rapper House, and we had angry black people expressing their rage and all of that, you know. As long as we didn't act it out on each other, you know, we could come there and we could do that. And even during that time, my brother, who's quite a poet himself, Aquila Damu, and he was more of the angry poet but he was very Afro-centered, and he was at Wayne County Community College, and he was interacting in terms of his studies with Klan folk who were studying sociology, you know. And it was really something for seeing him, who was very angry, very provocative, but from the educational point of view, trying to understand what made Klan folk tick. And some even came to Rapper House, so we could really explore kind of the whole gamut there. So it made it a fascinating place for us as poets and artists and to interact. And the owner, Mrs. Rogers, Lejeune Rogers, just had a keen understanding of art and culture and made a place to do that. At the same time, there was some limits. You know, you can go on the edge, but you kind of knew how far to go, you know. And she made the place very open and welcome. Even legendary poets like Robert Hayton, you know, was a friend of Mrs. Rogers, and he encouraged a lot of the young poets to expound and excel. So it was an excellent experience for me as a poet in my 20s to have this kind of interaction, get this kind of support, and to feel like I can go places and do things, and at the same time realize as an artist, as a poet, it'll be a struggle to make a living doing that. And they also emphasize at Rapper House, you know, don't give up the day job. And I sort of kept that with me, and that helped me to survive, whether in Detroit, whether in New York, or in Denver. I had occasion to spend a few years in New York. And it gave me the skills to go there, to believe in myself, And at the same time, to understand the reality that in the arts, in entertainment, your chances are slim. Or to see you have two chances, slim and none, you know. But I was able to go there and not get discouraged because I realized that it is a struggle. And as they say, the struggle continues.
Now, since they were so controversial, do any conflicts come to mind? Were there any confrontations at Rapper House with all the diversities of people?
You know, amazingly enough, it was the understanding that at Rapper House, it was the place for diversity. It was the place to express to express the anger and the frustration, that we didn't have to take it out on each other. It's like you can come here and you can say this and you can do this. And Mrs. Rogers set a tone. At this time, she was probably like in her 50s or something around this time. So she was a little older, I guess, and wiser. And she had been connected with Motown herself. A lot of Motown acts, she got bookings for them when Motown was just getting started. So she was sort of like this sage, wonderful person. They refer to her as an angel. She seemed to have a real understanding of that and say, yes, come out and express your conflict, express your anger and your frustration, and you don't have to agree, you know. But this is not going to be a place we're not going to have any brawls here. We're not going to be fighting here, you know. We're not going to do that. But as long as you can come and express yourself. And it was good that a white person from the suburbs can come out, express their frustration of what's going on, what they're feeling. And a black person from the inner city can express their frustration, you know. And so it was a great thing. And except even when the Klan could come down and not cause a riot in Detroit, you know. So it was some amazing times. And one other thing I would like to add to that, part of my getting connected with Rapper House came out of some conflict. I was a part of a popular black organization, you know, and I wasn't black enough for them, you know, and they weren't that happy with my presence there, although I was there anyway. And I expressed that with Mrs. Rogers, you know, and she said, well, here's a place you can come and you can be black enough or not black enough here, you know. And she said, let's just open it up. So in a way, I was part of helping to open it up. And at that point, I wasn't out doing poetry. She said, I want you to be in charge of it. I said, I don't know if I'm really qualified. She said, yes, you are. She said, take to the stage. I'll show you, you know. And I went to the stage, and she just started tutoring me right then and there. And she said, want me to host that event, which I was able to do. So it was just a wonderful thing that you can bring people together who have a different of opinion and see things differently. But if you are about something positive, it can be a way of expressing that. You know, if it's going to be too negative, and then it's not the place for that. But I think she felt that it needed to be a place to express that anger in some appropriate way. And I think Rapper House became that place. As well as just a fascinating place to just enjoy music and dance and all kinds of entertainment. Plus, she served excellent food. It was known for the food. And she was from, I guess she was born in Alabama, but she grew up in New Orleans. So she kind of brought that Creole essence to Detroit. It specialized in Creole cuisine and that New Orleans flavor to it, you know. So it was just a wonderful experience, you know. And at the same time, it was something where you can feel real deep as who you are as a poet, as a writer. So it was a great experience for me.
Okay. Are there any closing words, or what message would you like to convey to Detroit or all of your listeners around the country?
I would like to convey the message of art and literature is something that's very important. I think it should be a main part of the school system, though it's going through all kinds of problems, but I think it would help students to become better people. Having appreciation of art and culture, you can learn a lot about life as you explore the lives of various artists and entertainers. It can help students get a better appreciation of who they are. And I think it's a place for diversity, to appreciate our own culture, have a lot of respect for that, and be open to understanding what other cultures are about. A lot of times we share a lot of the same problems, you know. So I would say I do believe in diversity, although tends a trend sometimes to put down multiculturalism and all of that, and it can be abused. But I think in its better sense, in terms of the better angels of that, embracing the culture of variety of people and seeing what makes them tick, what are they going through, and at the same time have a lot of respect for who you are, have a lot of respect for our own culture, you know. So to me, I think it's not an either or. I think it's both, that we should have respect for who we are and the wonderful people and the struggles of what our history means to us as black people, and at the same time be very aware of the suffering that other people have gone through and have some appreciation of that. So that would be my message at Rapper House, my message when I was in New York, my message in Denver. That's still my message, you know. So that's been my message since I got started, and it still is, you know. And even my mother would recite poetry by Paul Laurence Dunbar, you know, and such things as In the Morning and We Wear the Mask. And Dunbar has been dead for over 100 years, but a lot of what he says still is very important right now, today.
And before we go, I want to show your certificate that you got from Nichols Elementary and Middle School. If you can show the camera.
Which way? Put it right, like right. Okay.
And what is this in recognition of?
Okay, this is in recognition of Career Day. There was a Career Day at Nichols Elementary Middle School, and I talked about writing in general, and in particular writing poetry and writing song lyrics. And I shared with them poetry that I wrote, and I shared with them the song that I wrote for the Barrino Brothers, and I also shared with them some other songs from Invictus, the recording company that I had the pleasure of being a part of. So I was able to share that with them. And some of them may recall people like Chairman of the Board and Freda Payne. So I had a chance to share some of their works with the young people.
Okay. Well, that's legendary poet Wardell Montgomery. He's seen many things. He has a lot to say. He's an educator, prolific songwriter. And I want to thank you, Wardell, for stopping by.
And thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure.
It's a positive reaction.
Positive reaction.
While at the Rapper House, I had the wonderful experience to work with a beautiful group of young ladies, the Burnett sisters. And they recorded a song that I wrote, and I would like to recite the lyrics of that song. And we did this back in the 60s, and Pamela Burnett actually composed the music for this at the age of 16. And it's called I Meant Every Word. You are down and out. Please, don't be disturbed. When I said I love you, I meant every word. You're sick and no longer have your health. You're poor and no longer have your wealth. I'm not in love with the things your money can buy. I'm in love with you, baby, and that's no lie. And that's the way it will always be. I'll do what I can to make you happy. What good are diamonds, silver, or gold if I don't have you in my arms to hold? And what good is life and all of its treasures if I don't have you? I would have no pleasures. Darling, indeed I pray that you will recover. Even if you don't, still, there will be no other. Even if you never earned 1 red cent, I wouldn't regret this life we've spent. When I said I would love you in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, I meant every word that day. Today, I mean it even more. You are down and out. Please, don't be disturbed. When I said I love you, I meant every word.
Positive reaction. When the world is gone its way, you know you got to say positive reaction. When the world has got you down, you'll turn your life around. Positive reaction. For watching